When we think of some of our favorite pixelated games, the first things that come to mind are Minecraft, Terraria, Stardew Valley, and, might I dare say, Undertale. But what makes these kinds of games stand out from others like Dead Cells, Core Keeper, and Hyper Light Drifter, which are all incredible games in their own right? I think a lot of it has to do with the way they use pixel art. The reason pixel art exists at all is because in the early days of game development, there was no way to create the kinds of graphics that we have now. Our technology just couldn't handle it yet. So a whole bunch of classic games in the 70s and 80s utilized pixels, which are the smallest units that make up a colored image on your screen. Space Invaders was the first one to do it, and other classics like Mario and Sonic followed much later. You are probably wondering why this is important at all. Well, the point is that pixel art was born from limitation. So why do modern games that don't have these limitations even use pixel art at all, especially when there's so much incredible 3D software out there right now? I bet developers back then wish they could just open up Blender and create a 3D model. This brings us to the secret of pixel art, and what makes it appealing to so many of us. The secret lies in its limitations. Let me explain. When we read a book, we don't actually see or hear anything. We don't experience what the author did when they were writing their book, but we do experience our own version of the story. We make it up in our head. Humans are great at projecting their lives and their experiences onto characters and stories to relate to them. This isn't a bad thing, it's just our imagination. It's affected by all of our own personal experiences. Someone might imagine the main character to have short hair and brown eyes, while another might imagine they have black hair and blue eyes. This is part of why books are just so captivating. They take you on a story, and you're the one who has to fill in the blanks using your imagination. Pixel art, in a way, is similar. Take classic Mario, for example. There aren't enough pixels to really form any kind of meaningful facial expressions. You can't do that with like 3 or 5 pixels. But then you look at Mario's mustache, and you imagine him smiling. You look at a Goomba's eyebrows, and you see this really angry little mushroom that has no idea where it's going. You can only convey so much with a few pixels, but a pixel artist knows how to do it right. Modern games don't have these restrictions anymore. Pixel art can come in pretty much any size we want. Of course, one reason why pixel art is still used so much is because it's nostalgic. It makes us remember times when we were younger, and games, along with the rest of life, was much simpler. I used to play Pokemon Diamond and Pearl with some of my friends on the school bus, since my house was the last stop on the way home. It brings back a lot of fond memories, and I'm sure a lot of other people can relate to that as well. Now, there is also the practicality of pixel art that makes it viable for indie developers. Making high-resolution 3D models takes a lot of effort and time. It's such a broad skill that there are careers in subsections of 3D modeling. Pixel art is available to everybody, and you just sort of click on the screen and a pixel appears there. It doesn't need to be perfect, so long as you get your idea across. In fact, it really doesn't need to be perfect at all, and Undertale is a great example of this. Undertale doesn't really have great art by the normal definition. I mean, the world looks okay, and the sprites are pretty basic, but this actually ends up working in its favor, because while Toby Fox isn't an amazing game developer, he is a fantastic storyteller and composer. The character designs do what pixel art does best. They focus on important features. It doesn't try to be perfect. You create a version of this character inside your head, and it just sort of comes to life, as if it were a good book. This is consistent throughout the entire game, and it's why the characters are so beloved and iconic. This goes to show that you don't need to be a good artist to make pixel art, or a good programmer to make a game. You just need to convey enough through your pixel art. Limitation breeds imagination, the fuel of stories. Pixel art is just one way to make that happen. As someone who's learning game development myself, thinking about this has changed the way that I approach my own pixel art. By God, we must embrace the squares and all of their silliness. That's about all I have to say on this topic. If you want to be notified of any future videos, make sure to subscribe, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.